Alright, there we go. Wait. Can I adjust that better? Should I zoom out, zoom in? Alright, I'll just leave it like that. Alright, what's going on, you guys? It's your boy 3 Stacks in this thing representing Team Kings of Games. And I'm actually going to be going over Herald of Perfection again. I wanted to do it in real life since I have most of the cards that I need. I am missing like some extra deck stuff and definitely some side deck stuff, but honestly, as far as the main deck goes, I'm not really missing anything, and that's the most important part of this video. And the extra deck just has budget options for what I would really want to play. But I do feel like this deck is still a strong deck. This card is like if there's just like a Yu-Gi-Oh card that said Nope and had a picture on it, it's like that's what Herald is, honestly. For me, he's one of my favorite boss monsters ever. He's one of the very few boss monsters that have a pseudo infinite negate clause on them that also build chain links on themselves. Like even with Avion and Thunderbird, it's a once per chain, so it's not like an infinite negate in the sense where you can play around like a Ghost Ogre or a Gamma, for example. So even like the infinite negate with Thunderbirds and like Mist Valley cards still can lose like to a well-timed Ogre or Gamma because it's once per chain. The same with Appaloosa. He'll have multiple negates, but he's once per chain. So like there's very few. There's not like a little like 100 plus cards. I think it's like probably 20 or less Yu-Gi-Oh cards that exist that are like him. And he's very unique to his own like deck and playstyle because he is a ritual monster, and his effect is based off of fairy monsters specifically, which is my favorite type of monster. This is why it's so good. It's my favorite type of monster and my favorite type of mechanic in one deck. And also he has angels, and I'd rather have Yu-Gi-Oh cards that have good artwork than like demonic looking images. So it's just like there's so much about this deck that I enjoy. I will be going into theory on my list, explaining my card choices, and also giving you guys pretty much a 101 on this deck, because this is one of those decks that, honestly, if it had like this just ridiculously insane going second card, like Ultimate Conductor, like if they make a fairy monster that's like Ultimate Conductor, I feel like this would be literally like probably the best deck in the game, and I probably wouldn't be playing anything else for a while if we just got a Fairy-esque Conductor. I'm probably going to make a custom card like that. Like that's all this deck really is missing, is like that. It is really oppressive aggressor for breaking boards. Outside of Stick Chair and Herald, you know, it's not much to offer. So that's one of the downsides of this deck, is it's really hard to break a board with 5+ cards. Like Stick Chair can only out so much, even with the Map Net cards. But anyways, I'm going to get into the list, you guys, because there's so much to share. So first off, 3 of the Man, the Myth, and the Legend. Herald of Perfection. As you see, I'm proxying 2 Consecrated Lights for my other 2 Heralds. I figured, what better card, right, to proxy for Herald than like Consecrated Light the GOAT. Something cool, I am playing Diviner in this list, which I'm going to talk a lot about that card's utility in this deck. Not literally like a 10-minute rant, but just about like its utility. That fact that this is a card that Diviner can summon, and also that it can summon tuners for like Halcyon Fireback. It's amazing. But anyways, the 3 Heralds, like I said, he builds chain links on himself. It's kind of ironic and funny that the Herald of the Arclight stops Herald, but it's like, you know, I don't know why they did that since they're the same archetype, but like honestly, when you're summoning this card in this deck, you're just using him first and searching. I just wanted to point that out because like that's another big weakness, is that going second against established boards that have Herald of the Arclight, it really hurts, because when you summon him, you can't actually activate his effect to negate anything, because he actually does like discard a fairy monster from your hand to the graveyard in his text to negate. So with Arclight up, he cannot negate, which is a huge downside for this format, that any deck that's using Halcyon Firebacks can like put up, you know, his underdog, and his underdog keeps him on check, which is really sad. But anyways, moving forward, 3 of his side and his main. I think he's kind of iffy on whether or not she's still his main, but this Princess Katana, hiya! And honestly, she is one of the most broken cards, in my opinion, in Yu-Gi-Oh! Because she's not once per turn, and she's very, very generic in her searching ability, being any light fairy monster. Which, if you just look in Google, like I want you guys to go into the YouTube, the Yu-Gi-Oh database. I said YouTube, Yu-Gi-Oh card database, and search the word light fairy. You guys are gonna wonder how I came up with almost like 200 different variants on Herald. Because I was just searching light fairy monsters and just figuring out like what's the best ones. Like that's how I found out about like Asura Priest. And I thought about Asura Priest with Honest. That's a good way to go second. Drop an Honest and attack over everything. He's like a pseudo-conductor. Just like different creativity methods, like to not really give sauce that doesn't make sense, but sauce that supplements for weaknesses, if that makes sense. it's like if your deck didn't have something and you found a light fairy that offers what your deck doesn't have, that's when you add it in there for your variants. But she's just really, really busted, you guys. One of the best cards ever. This is his side and his main. And honestly, outside of Diviner, which isn't TCG legal, there's no better card to tribute to summon Herald, because every time you summon Herald, you're adding her back to hand and you're searching any light fairy. That can be your stick chair combo to hand loop your opponent. That can be Eva for just more pluses because she's a 1-card 3 negates with the right setup. That can be Christia, so that way your opponent cannot activate card effects and they can't special summon. So if they don't have Dark Ruler and you don't have Lance, you know, they might as well just pick their cards up and scoop, which is like amazing, you know. And I'm still working on perfecting the board of just Herald and Christia. It's really hard, like, to do. I'm trying to figure out a way. Like, with Incantations, it's a lot easier because you can Ritual Summon for Herald and then Tribute Summon for Christia, and then you have just those 2 exact monsters. So that way you're immune to Spear Mode. Because Herald Christia turns off Kaijus, which are more popular. But that's the fact that now that board plays are on Spear Modes, Kaijus, and Lava Golems, and you can side deck Forbidden Lance, and a lot of draw power leads into the Lance, and that counters Dark Ruler no more and Droplets, you will have nearly impregnable boards. Your opponent's only bet is to hope that they have more cards that they can use to break your board than you have fairies, which is very unlikely. I don't imagine somebody having 6 cards that can both bait my negates and break my board. Normally they'll have 3 to 4 cards that can get them where they need to be, and they'll have like 1 or 2 tech cards that are not really going to be worthy of negating, if that makes sense. Like if somebody drops Ogier and Renald, you know, like I'd probably let them resolve both effects and then just wait for the Gear Feed, negate them in hand, and then negate Ice Soul, versus just negating them as soon as they hit the field, if that makes sense. But anyways, moving past the blue cards, which are the only ones I'm playing, no other ritual monsters, because this just keeps your deck really patent and consistent. That way you're not running into the issue of multiple ritual spells with the improper names. You know, pre-prep is like a heaven sent almost for this deck when it comes down to running different ritual monsters, because it does get Saphira and her ritual spell. But to play competitively, you have to make sure that your deck is doing the one thing it needs to do the most, and that's the embodiment of consistency. And that's putting up Herald and searching fairies. That's what you want to do. And that's a win con. It sounds very simplistic on pen and paper, but putting up Herald and searching fairies, it does a lot. Next up, honestly, this card is actually insane. He's a tuner. He Fool's Barrels any fairy monster. He can change his level. He has an effect when he's tributed, which is like amazing because he doesn't have to like literally like hit the grave. If I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure it's just like Benton. Let me make sure. Yeah, if this card is basically, oh my goodness, yeah, it's literally if this card's tributed, it doesn't even have to hit the grave. The same thing with Benton, which is pretty cool. If she's just tributed too, she doesn't have to be tributed by a ritual spell, just tributed. So like Diviners is literally an Armageddon Knight for any fairies, but even better because he's a tuner. He changes his level and he can dump from extra deck, and also he has an ability when he's tributed. So like if you couldn't ask for a better Manju, honestly. He's like the best Manju for this deck. And he's a Herald card, or she, probably is a she. You know, somebody's going to be really anal about that and be like, technically it's a she in the comment section. But anyways, Diviner is like literally, it's part of the family. Like you got Arclight, you've got like, you know, him. Ultimateness is like a superior version of Herald, but he's way harder to get out and it's not worth the negs. Because like, who wants to negate special summons when you can just put up a Christia and not have to worry about negating special summons, right? That's why I think Herald Christia is just better. But he's part of the family, and this card does contribute to help your 5x combos if you play Hulk, but it's not really worth the bricks, honestly, because your deck does what it does already so good that there's really no like need to throw Dragoon or throw O-Line or Synchron or Borlo Savage or anything. What this helps it with is summoning Herald of the Arclight properly and putting up Herald of the Arclight. While it may turn off Herald, like initially, it plays around Forbidden Droplets. And now, once you use Herald of the Arclight's effect to negate, you will search another fairy, which adds for ammunition, so he's just loading his gun to fire at my opponent. So yeah, like, Diviner is really busted. Like, it's not even an exaggeration or a stretch. This card is, like, one of the best cards. Like, that's something about this deck, you guys, to be honest. Like, I love that this deck continues to get support, even though some of the cards that I play are not meant for this deck. Like, Celestial Observatory was for any level 6s. Extra Foolish Burial was just an extra deck Foolish, literally. And then the Incantations were for any ritual deck. Preparation of Rites came to 3. You know, Eva is from a structure deck that's for counter fairies. So is Powered Angel Valkyria. Ties of the Brethren, you know what I mean? Like, that card came out. Herald's an old card. Like, Ties of the Brethren was like indirect support for Manju and Barrier Statue and Honest. there's just so many cards, like Honest coming back to 3, that was a while ago, but I've been playing this deck for a long time. Like, there's so many cards that just make this deck better and better. Even the Cyber Angel cards, the Ritual Sanctuary, Benton, just changed this deck. Honestly, I can't imagine playing this deck without those cards anymore. They just became, like, integral for the core. But anyways, outside of Diviner just being so insane, like I said, I do play what I feel is a better starter, which is Gale Dogra. If you play it could be a conventional, very, very small incantation engine with just the minimum you can play, because they're not fairies. They're good extenders. They're good to combo off. You can tribute summon for Christia, so you can put up just Herald Christia to play around Spirit Mode, Kaijus, and Lava Golems. But just the problem with the incantations is that they're not fairies, and you tend to draw a lot more of them, and it kind of sucks. But if you do play Imps, he searches both Talismandra and also Inception, and that is like that incantation combo right there is like a +4 to 5. So the fact that he's just a 1-card combo, if you play the right cards, makes him just way better than Diviner in the terms of just playability, self-contained by himself. Diviner is just better all around because you can use it a lot more. Gale's a one-and-done theme. You don't have enough life points to do it again. And also, Diviner is more resilient in the terms of playing through hand traps, because if it gets ashed or impermed or, Veilered, you can still tribute it to Ritual Summon and trigger its effect to summon out another monster and get that effect to search and kind of replace where your opponent thought they went 1-for-1 with you and they actually end up going -1, which is really cool. But there's no better normal summons in this deck than these. Manju just can't keep up with the tempo that these cards build. So that's why these are better than Manju. Sinju's just out of the question because Manju's better than Sinju. So over the time, we've got better and better normal summons. Gale Dogra is kind of old though, honestly. It's not new, but as you guys see, Diviner's not TCG legal, but I do play the card because it's a really, really broken card. And it makes Eva that much more powerful and more integratable in your deck, where Eva's a lot more worth it now with Diviner versus no Diviner. And Eva's like, you hate to draw her targets and you hate to draw her sometimes, but with Diviner, oh, she's insane because you can summon her off Diviner, make a Link Karibo, and on command, your first turn, search 2 more fairies, and then use Ritual Sanctuary to special summon that Eva back from the grave. So that way, your opponent's turn, you can use Link Karibo to tribute the Eva to search 2 more times. So there's a lot of ways that you can milk your cards like a cow, which is awesome. Next up, honestly, this is like the best package for going second in this deck. I'm never going to cut it. You can't even compare this to Venus and Shine Balls because this doesn't really, Stick Chair doesn't really like lose to like a Veiler. And even for like Gamma, you'll still be able to reveal Sovereignty, put a body on field and draw, so you get like a +1 still. So like through any hand trap, you'll still, with just the Stick Chair combo through any hand trap, you'll still be able to generate field advantage and also hand advantage. Whether it's Gamma, Ogre, Ash, Imperm, anything. In this deck, Nibiru is out of question. Nibiru and Ash are kind of like sometimes the worst hand traps against this deck. Even Gamma kind of sucks. The hand traps that really are good against this deck, honestly, I'm going to just tell you guys right now, my kryptonite is Dimension Shifter, which nobody really plays, and Droll and Lockbird, which nobody really plays. People really underestimate what those do to this deck. Outside of those lingering effects, this deck with a really good hand, when you open your preps and desires and like the Stick Chair shenanigans, you can push through like Ash, Imperm, Gamma, all that, no problem, and Nibiru just never happens. Because you're always going to have Herald before you even have a 5th summon. He's normally like your 2nd and 3rd. And if they have Nibiru plus Gamma, if they have Nibiru plus Imperm and Gamma, you negate all 3 and they scoop. That's the beauty of Herald. He builds chain links on himself, so people be like, ha ha ha, I'm just going to hold my Nibiru with my Imperm in hand, and you have a Herald with like 5 fairies in hand. What are they going to do? And the way this deck pluses is like sometimes unreal. You will have so many cards in your hand, I'm not even exaggerating, you will have to discard during in phase because you have too many cards. Like this deck has like +7, 8, 9, it's just crazy. And this combo also outs Dragoon, which is really cool because you summon the Map Mech, which does have the ability to send a monster to the grave, and a spell or trap, and a card from your opponent's hand, and Scepter gets a pop, so you clear 4 cards, and you draw a card, and you out Dragoon, and you take a card from your opponent's hand in the process. So if you guys are saying that Venus is better, you're tripping. This puts up almost the same amount of field presence that Venus does, but it's more resilient. Venus loses to any hand trap that waxes her except for Ash, but this plays through every hand trap I was talking about, and at least will get you a body and a draw 1, which is way more important sometimes, honestly, versus Venus Pass. So like this is just way better. It's a lot more powerful, and it really helps like a lot of the problems with this deck because sometimes it's harder to OTK, but not only are these like so accessible with all your draw power, but they're light and they're fairy, so they're searchable. And that's just really, really broken when you consider that a deck has access to a combo this powerful. The OCG hit these cards on the ban list. I think they hit Sovereignty. That's how good they are. And they're searchable. And they're not once per turn. And they're recurable off Ritual Sanctuary. Man, I call these cards Staff and Throne because I just imagine like Herald coming out and he just has Scepter in his hand and he's sitting on the Sovereignty. You know what I mean? But no one deserves a throne except Jesus Christ himself. But anyways, moving forward past that, we're playing this card right here. Oh my goodness. If you didn't have enough Walking Floodgates, right? That's what I mean, like fairy-type monsters are not only my favorite types of monsters, but fairies have some of the best monsters in the game. We have like a better Vanity's Emptiness because it could be special summon. It's better than Vanity's Fiend because it's searchable in this deck, it's recurable, and again, it's special summons, and it adds from your graveyard to hand. So it's like a Sunlight Wolf and a Vanity's Emptiness, and it's searchable. It's really, really broken. And then on top of that, we have Arclight. That's actually our card, and it's a fairy. And we have Herald of Perfection. So we have some of the best monsters in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! If you ask me, to be honest. And we have Diviner. So Fairy Gang running strong. But Herald and Chrysia is the best board ever against almost every deck except for Set 5 Pass. And at that point, if they don't have a counter trap, you just negate all their traps anyways, to be honest. And again, when you go against trap decks like that, you just put up multiple Heralds. I do that because I'm scared of Strike, right? I don't know if everybody main deck Strike when they play a lot of trap decks, but I'm just scared of it, so I put up multiple Heralds, so that way if they flip Crackdown and I chain negate, they chain Strike, at least I still have another Herald that they have to deal with, so they have to have double Strike. And then they still have to deal with Chrysia. So it's just really, really hard to out without the, Ignorant Dark Ruler Droplets combo, comment. But I do play Forbidden Lances to counter the Droplets and the Dark Ruler. And also summoning Arclight is not that hard in this deck, and it plays around Droplets by itself. And also under Dark Ruler, it contributes itself for cost and still get its graveyard effect to search for a ritual monster, which is amazing, or a ritual spell. And then I play double Eva, so these are the high yield fairies that are not great to combo off with in your opening hand, but they're the searchable cards that Benton gives you so much consistency that you can see these cards. The amount of consistency is sometimes unreal because when you really think of it, these are not just searchable by Benton. Benton's searchable by Geldogara and Diviner of the Heralds. She's searchable by Prep. She's searchable by Extra Fool's Burial. She's searchable by Ritual Sanctuary. She's also, let me do the math, 3, 6, I don't even want to do the math. There's just so many Bentons, literally there's so many Bentons, and when you think about it, any access to Benton summoning Herald searches for these. So when you really think about it, you have almost 15 to 20 ways to access Eva or the Star Seraphs. So not only are your searchable cards searchable by searchers, if that even makes sense, but your searchable searchers are searchable by other searchable cards. Oh my goodness, that's gonna put somebody in a loop like Twilight Zone. Searchable searcher cards that are searchable by searchers? What? That's the level of consistency we're dealing with here. And if you guys are wondering why I play multiple Evas, I mean, it's good to not banish off Desires. That's why it's nice to have two. But the main reason is because you combo off with this turn 1 with your Diviner plays, and you want to be able to dump it from your deck to your grave off Diviner, and you want to be able to search it off of Herald. It's just so good. It's crazy strong. The card's just so broken. You can even use it to banish extra monsters from your field. If you only have one engraved, you could just banish a dead Petite Angel or a dead Cyber Egg Angel. So that way they're out of your way and you can plus more. And sometimes that really helps when you're at low life points and you have to normal summon them and attack normal egg and dang, you don't want to get OTK'd. You just revive Diviner, Eva off of Sanctuary, and you can just trigger effect honestly, which is really nice. So the card's amazing. It has great synergy with Link Karibo, like I was explaining before. Just summoning this with Link Karibo up and reborn it off of Sanctuary. And now Link Karibo both negates an attack, tributes this, and summons itself, triggers this effect to search more. And don't forget, this is a 1-card 3 negates that's searchable and recurable, and it's the best target for Sanctuary because it's the easiest to summon. And just looping Link Karibo is really good for the grind. So Eva is a really insane card. And also don't forget, it searches Diviner. And Diviner gets you access to Stick and Chair because it gets you access to Sovereign, because it gets you access to Benton and Dawn and Herald, if that makes sense. So if really when you think about it, even weird cards like Eva can search out any Light Fairy in the deck. Or even any ritual monster, because you can search Diviner to then dump Arc and then search a ritual spell. So even Eva can search out ritual spells when you just do the combination right. So that's the level of consistency I'm talking about. And then I play some really good Eva targets outside of Diviner, so that way you can always search two. Not always, but More than likely search 2 unless you just literally hard drew them or banished them both off desires. Egg is the best. I'd honestly just play 2 eggs, but sometimes Petite does come up because it does search for the Benton, which is really important. So like you just play the 2 because they offer 2 different effects, and that's more utility than just playing double egg. Egg just has the best effect because it searches for your Las Vegas, your Ritual Sanctuary, and it searches for the draw 2 spell that lets you fix your hand, put your bricks back, and then just search Eva, like, which is crazy. So like these cards are really, really good, and these are strong normal summons when you have weaker hands. And then next up, I do play Ciphering Gear Gamma and Driver. So it's necessary to play hand traps now because I can't really break like Savage, Arclight, Abyss Dweller, and Appaloosa, and an extra deck lot against, you know, like against Rock. For Noble Knights, I think their boards are a lot easier to break for me because there's not as many negates. For Dragon Links, it's kind of hard because it's really hard to break the board without my extra deck. So Stick and Chair, all it offers is just field presence. But like if I have access to my extra deck, it's a lot easier. So the reason why I chose Gamma over any other hand trap, honestly, because it has the most synergy with my deck. Not only is Driver a level 6 for my ritual spell, but also I have so many power spells like Desires, Pre-Prep, Prep, Extra Fool's Burial, Ritual Sanctuary, discarding for cost, that all scream, hand trap, negate, do something to me. And I just reveal Gamma and I can just continue to play after that. I really kind of want to put an Omega in my extra deck just for those interactions where you activate pre-prep and they ash you and you just reveal Gamma, summon Gamma, use Omega, snipe a card out their hand, and now they're playing with 4 cards into 5 or 6 negates. It's really hard. Another thing with Gamma, it helps with pushing going second. When your opponent does have the negates, you know, you can at least bait them with like a solid pre-prep and a Gamma and follow up with like Desires and then just normal summon Diviner, and you're going to be able to push with a great hand, you know. So Gamma plus like a couple really powerful spells, which you play a lot of, and a really strong, impactful normal summon, you know, it can really get you far in the terms of breaking boards. So that's why it's really good in this deck. And it offers like a different level of synergy versus any other hand trap. Just like the synergy that it has is a lot better. Because it protects my plays, it helps to break boards, and the brick is actually a combo piece. So it's like, it doesn't really get any better than that, you know what I mean? Let's see here. And also keep in mind that Gamma actually can be used to synchro summon into Arclight with the level 2, which is like something that could come up for you. So for spells, I played 3 copies of Las Vegas, one of the best ritual spells, one of the best field spells in the game. What this card offers you is searchability for any of your missing, it's like, almost like if you took a building block and there was a hole that it fit exactly where it needed to be. This is like that kind of card. It's that missing piece. It fits exactly where you need it to fit. It kind of just makes your hand absolutely complete. You're normally missing 1 or 2 cards sometimes, and this can search either or, and it's not, there's no normal summon required. So it's not like Diviner or Manju, you know, and it's a lot safer sometimes because it does offer protection with Gamma versus like Diviner to search your combo pieces. You can't Gamma with the monster on field, but this is really strong because it does scream hand trap, because there's a discard for cost involved where a lot of people are very, very tempted to just hand trap it. They want to Ash, they want to Ogre, and you punish them with Gamma, and that's why I really want to play Omega. Another thing this offers is follow-ups, which is really important. Follow-up OTKs, follow-up searches. Grinding with Link Kuribo and Eva. You know, there's just so much utility with this card. That's why I love it. It's a really good 3-of, and it's searchable now, so you don't really need the 1-of terraforming. Next up, probably my favorite spell in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Is 3 Pre-Preparation of Rites. Because you can only activate 1, it's so amazing that because this deck is so consistent and has a lot of draw power, when this card gets negated when you're going second, and you start to get into your draw cards, you draw another one, you can just activate it again, and it doesn't hurt to open multiples when you're up against a board full of negates. So like, this card, because it's a +1, it screams hand trap. Because this card's a neg 1 initially, it screams hand trap. So you have a lot of cards that synergize with the Gamma, which is why I like the Gamma in the main deck. And then we have the 3 Preparation of Rites. And what I did is I just cut the Observatories for Gamma. Observatory just offers extra draw power. It's not necessary, whereas Gamma is really, really important. Because like, you need to play competitive, you know, with this deck. You don't want it to just be a casual deck, especially not my Herald, you know. So we have the 6 preps. It's amazing. Opening both of these, that's a 2-card combo. That's a 2-card combo where you can just get Herald out and search out your next fairy that you need. And then I do play 3 copies of Extra Foolish Burial. It's like a better Preparation of Rites, but there's a cost involved. The secondary effect doesn't come up until you sign in your Forbidden Lances. Then you have to trade this out for Lance because you don't ever want to open a hand with this and Lance because you're going to have to pick one and not use the other. So this is the card you slide out these 3 for the 3 Forbidden Lances to play around Droplets and Dark Roller. You know, you can summon Arclight to play around Droplets, but Dark Roller no more still exists. And you don't want to get Dark Roller, right? You just want to keep telling your opponent no. And they can't really complain because, to be honest, they're probably playing a deck that's going to do something very similar to lock me out. So I'm not really, there's no sympathy. And we have the 3 Pot of Desires. The card is one of the best spells you can play in this deck. It's just a Pot of Greed. You play so many 3-ofs that are searchable by 3-ofs that are searchable by 3-ofs that are searchable by other 3-ofs that you can all access through spells that you might not be able to search, but they're also 3-of spells, which is like really busted. Like, for example, Pre-Prep's not searchable, but it searches for your cards that are searchable by other cards that are searchable by searchers, which is really, really, really busted. It's a tongue twister, but I mean it. And Desires is that kind of card. It baits a negate, and if it resolves, you know, I'm glad, because then I probably have 2 more cards to negate. And oh yeah, another interaction that does come up is when you just open the stones and you just activate Dawn. And your opponent literally has to negate it right now. So like Dawn with Gamma is amazing too. And then for the last of the draw spells, we play the Merciful Machine Angel. It's a searchable card off of Egg, and also it lets you fix your brick hands. When you open too many Geldogras, you can put it back, trade out some cards for better cards, filter, and then resolve Bintin, which is like, when you're resolving multiple Bintins, you're just in a really, really, really commanding position for the rest of the duel. So as you guys see, I only play the 4 draw spells, but keep in mind that the Star Seraphs are searchable and they give me draw power as well. And then, you know, obviously the most important spell in the deck, you can't really play without it, is Dawn of the Herald. Like, there's no better ritual spell to summon Herald with, not Sprite's Blessing, not Incantation Inception, because this card, it literally is his ritual spell. It gives you the synergy with pre-prep, and it also replaces the cards that you use, so that you don't neg so much when you ritual summon. So, looking in, now for the extra deck, this is kind of like, you know, I don't have everything, but I do have, for the most part, almost everything I need. 3 Heralds. You're going to be playing 3 of these because you're dumping them off Geldogra, off Diviner, off Extra Foolish Burial, and you're going to be synchro summoning for it too. Whether it's through Diviner or if you just use the Gamma plus one of your level 2s that are searchable and that can be special summoned from the deck. Synchro summoning for Herald of the Arclight might sound counterintuitive because people will drop a very, very, you know, kind of for me like common comment that you might just expect to see. People will say, but it stops Herald, but you can use this first. That's the thing. So this helps to protect against droplets, so your opponent can just like activate an effect, and then you chain a gate and they chain droplets. And also it makes it a lot harder for them to break your board because some decks just can't play around Arclight. And once you just get rid of it, you know, whether you get rid of it or your opponent just attacks over it, you can just use Herald anyways. And whenever it hits the grave, it gives you another negation. So any boards with Eva in hand and Herald of the Arclight on field with Herald is really, really broken because Eva's 3 negates in 1. And this is 2 negates in 1. So you have 5 negates. Literally, if you only have the 1 card in your hand, is literally just Eva, and you just, this never happens, but you in on 1 card in hand. 1. This has never happened to me. If you just in on just the Eva, the Herald, and the Arclight, this is 3, 4, 5 negates with no other cards in hand. This is going to be able to search 2 more times, and this is literally going to negate a card and then search for a ritual monster, which shouldn't be Herald, so you play around Call by the Grave, search for a Bintin, pitch that to negate, resolve Eva, search for 2 more negates. You have 5 negates with just Eva in hand and Arclight on field. That's really huge for resource management, so now your opponent can't just be like, oh, he only has 1 card in hand, I only need to bait 1 negate. Before they know it, they've lost 5 cards. So like if you have 5 more cards in your hand, which is very common because you plus so much, plus even Arclight, those 5 cards can be kept for you. You can do what you want with those for your next turn. You just stick to the minimum that gets you the maximum, if that makes sense. But anyways, besides the 3 arcs, I play the double ints. Something else is like you definitely are really solid against the Dragma matchup. You don't need to throw Nova or Makaba. You have these cards. So if they resolve Maximus, you're going to dump an Elder and an Arclight and just get free pluses. If you're not scared of their board, you just dump double Herald, to be honest, and you're getting 2 free searches. You're starting your turn off with 8 cards in hand, so never resolve Maximus against this deck unless you just really are ballsy. So 1 Almirage and 1 Link Karibo, the Link ones that are recurable in this deck, and protect you from OTKs when you resolve Geldogra so that they can't just attack over it. Link Karibo, the same thing, it resolves like to protect you from OTKs. Cross Sheep is really good in this deck because you can do your standard combo, special Arc Lord Chrysia to its zone, having Herald pointing to it, and because there's a ritual monster there, you draw 2 and discard 2. If you have Eva in hand, you draw 2, discard Eva, and then search 2, so you get 4 cards to hand. So the amount of pluses are sometimes just really unreal. Then I play Phoenix, and then since I don't have Nightmare Unicorn, I have Cerberus, but I honestly would just play Unicorn over it instead. And then the Hip, which is one of the best Link 2s in this deck. It offers Recursion, it offers a boost for Christia and Herald. And also sometimes, Stick Chair combo gets you to Christia, because when you do the Stick Chair combo and link those two into this, link this and the Stick Chair into another link, like Decode for example, if you play it, you get exactly 4 fairies engraved, because this is a fairy itself. And that gets you Christia, which is another interaction. I play Abomination, so I have like a link for it to like break boards, and then like Boros Sword so that I can OTK. I would play Access Code Talker would replace both of these, because it both breaks boards and OTKs, and then that way that can just be like an Abyss Roller or something, but like I need some form of aggression, so I play these two. And then I play the Math Mechs, which like one's good going first, one's good going second. Sometimes you get really nice and you get to search for pre-prep, because Stick Chair does RNG into like one of the other 4 star sets in your deck, which is like amazing. So yeah, you guys, like honestly, I'm about to post a video of this deck testing against like multi-negate boards to see if I can pull it off. Like honestly, this deck's really cool, it's really fun. Honestly, it's not fun to play against, but it's a deck you have to respect, because like if you get paired up against this deck and you don't have the right cards in your hand, you just might as well just pick your cards up. It's not like, oh, he has Herald of the Arclight and Warlord Savage and Appaloosa, but I open Imperm Gamma in full combo. Imperm Gamma in full combo is not going to break Herald Christia. It's not. So this deck's boards compared to other boards are different, because even if your opponent doesn't open Dark Roller no more, when they're up against Adamantipator's or Infernoble Knights, they still have a chance if they open like a certain combination of cards. Like I said, it could be Infinite Impermanence plus Siphon Gear Gamma, and they just happen to have like a crazy amount of extenders. Like for Infernoble Knights, they probably have like Renaud, Ogier, opening, you know, like Red Layer. Just, you know, just the ability to be able to push through those negates is more realistic than being able to break a Herald and a Christia without Dark Roller or Droplets. You can't sit here and tell me. You literally have to have Dark Roller, Droplets, or Spear Mode. That's 3 cards out of the thousands of cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! That exist that can break those kinds of boards without you just trying to bait my 7 negates with your 6 cards in hand. Good luck with that. So that's the video, you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it. God bless you. Make good choices. Don't hurt your brain cells. Stay tuned for future content. I love you. Jesus loves you. I'm going to say a quick prayer and we're out. Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Jesus, thy kingdom come and thy will be done on earth just as it is in heaven, Lord. Please give us this day our daily bread, Lord, and please forgive us of our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, Father, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the glory, and the power forever. In the mighty name of Jesus I pray. Thank you, Father. Amen. All right, you guys, peace.